Everyone, welcome to another video. I really wanted to try like a vlog style video for my clinicals. That hasn't worked out so far because it's just been so like unpredictable. And to be honest, if I were to vlog my morning routine, like half of the morning would just be me wandering and not doing much. But I can give you kind of a verbal recap of how it's gone and how it's going, and make clips after this. I think maybe I'll try to film like a full week and give you guys kind of a perspective of what I have experienced. So for context, I am currently doing clinicals for my CNA program. So here in Washington, I'm required to have like 40 hours of clinicals in addition to the classroom time and the skills time that we had and the online like learning time. So today is day 2 of my clinical program. I'm here at a nursing home. I'm not gonna say which one. And the first day was more instructive and like kind of giving us a tour, kind of explaining kind of how the nursing home works and stuff. And then we were partnered with a CNA for about like a few hours, like 4 hours. Today through Thursday, I think we're expected to join together with the CNAs, but also just be on the floor much longer. So we're in the long-term care kind of area, and that's split between about 9 of us that are in this particular session, and so yeah, I can kind of share a little bit of what we've experienced so far. So like I said, day 1 was pretty much instructive. We have a form that we have to fill out that has like a list of skills that we should be basically doing during our CNA class or during this clinical. And so on the first one, I think I got about like 3 or 4, well, technically more skills because I was trying to be an active participant with the CNA that I was partnered with. And then hopefully he's here today so I can get his signature because we do need to get it signed off. And then at the very end of like my time, I was paired with a different CNA because she needed help. And so I offered to go help her, and she was a lot more like adamant of me doing stuff, perhaps because she's like either been in like my specific program before or she knows like the requirements that I needed. So she was like much more like, you do this. And it was like as nerve-wracking as it was also like, thank you so much, because it allows me to actually do the skills. Whereas the other CNA, myself and another student were paired with him, so it was almost like we were assisting him more likely, like we were giving him things, and which was fine. But it was definitely more of like an observer type situation. So I'm really hoping that either I get that same second CNA again today, or that, I don't know, that I can just be a lot more hands-on today. It is kind of expected that our first day we don't really know everything and we're not going to be as willing to like do stuff because we're just like, my god, like, you know, we need to get to know the residents a little bit and then have them trust us and have them be willing. The first day, everyone I interacted with and myself and the other student interacted with, they were all very like nice and very like, my kind of partner, she was like, she always would ask like, are you comfortable with me being in here, like is that okay? And I'm just like the silent like second person. Of course I talked, but I wasn't like actively being like, as long as we enter and introduce ourselves, I think that's a major part. That she would like ask each person, they're like, yeah, no, it's fine, whatever. Like they don't care. But yeah, it's been a very interesting experience. I think the first day was very jarring. There were like some behavioral things. This particular nursing home does have its own separate behavioral section, which we haven't gotten to see. They do want to keep us out of that. But at the same time, yeah, it's even on the long-term care unit, there were certain behaviors that we observed. And there was also just the sense of like, obviously the CNAs, the nurses, are aware of their own residents and they know their quirks and stuff. And so us coming in as like new students and kind of seeing certain things or being told not to necessarily, you know, cater to this person or answer to their every whim was a little bit like, you know, like why wouldn't we, you know? I do have a background as a PCT. I was trained as a PCT in a hospital on the East Coast, and so, you know, certain things I'm more aware of and more comfortable with. And I do work at a hospital as well, so there are other things that I simply observe during my own shifts. And so it's been kind of nice to have a third kind of facet to tie into my experience. Obviously, again, this is only day 2. My clinicals start at 6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. and that's just the schedule that I chose. There was also an evening shift option at a different facility up north, and so, but this one is very close to my job and it's just the best. It's the earliest clinical as well. I wanted to be able to get in as soon as possible. So yeah, there's a lot of benefits to like getting this particular one. I do notice that like the facility I'm at is very outdated. Like apparently they've added many new sections onto the building, but like a lot of the equipment that they use is outdated, and it's kind of like, you know, but that's, I guess, more aesthetic than anything. But even just like they have tubs for their baths rather than like a shower, so that in and of itself is like you have to use a mechanical lift, and there's just a lot more kind of opportunities for hazards, so it's a little more scary. So far I've witnessed, in terms of skills, I've witnessed a shower. I didn't do the showering, but I witnessed like we were in the bathroom, weights like weighing both the wheelchair and the patient with the wheelchair, transferring, which isn't a skill, but I did assist with like transferring a patient. I also assisted with turning a patient, which is also part of like our skills. We have to do oral care in the form of either like brushing someone's teeth or assisting them with brushing their teeth, or feeding. I haven't done feeding yet, but my partner did get to do feeding, so that was like good for her, you know. And when I say partner, I mean like the other CNA that I was paired with, the other CNA student I was paired with on like my first day. So she got to do feeding, and then I don't know how it's gonna work, because like on Friday it was very disorganized because our instructor literally had to like hunt down individual CNAs, and it was very difficult to tell like the nurses versus the CNAs. So I don't even know if we're gonna have enough staff again today. I don't even think we had enough staff the first day, so that's gonna be interesting. I don't want to like ramble about these like random things. I feel like it might just be easier to check in each day and then at the end of each day. So like today will be pretty hectic. Tomorrow might be pretty hectic as well, because I do have work literally right after my clinicals end at 2:30. I have work at 3 p.m. Luckily it's like down the street, so in terms of getting there it shouldn't be an issue, but it's also a weekday, and yeah, it's gonna be busy. A weekday at the hospital is very busy. There's always traffic, a lot of inflow and outflow, because there's like the surgeries start Mondays through the week, so it's gonna be intense. I don't even know what time it is. It's 5:23. I definitely got here really early, but the parking is so limited, and you know, I woke up, for me, I want to wake up like 2 hours ahead of time before I need to either leave or I need to get somewhere. Like, considering that this is relatively in my neighborhood, I really didn't have to wake up as early, but I'm glad I did, because I woke up at 4 a.m. It took me maybe like 20 minutes to actually wake up, and like, so I would like kind of go back and forth between my bed and doing one thing or another. So it was good that I woke up at 4. I left at like 4:45. I went to Starbucks to get some coffee and a burrito, and I got here probably around like 5:10, and again, extremely early. I have about 20 minutes before I can actually go in, but yeah, the parking is so limited here, and I got here really early the first day as well, but there was someone who got here relatively late, not like late, but a few minutes late, because she had to park 3 blocks down the street, and I was like, I am not dealing with that. If I have to be here an hour early and I'm just sitting and chilling in my car, so be it, right? Also, so I had 1 set of scrubs already. I had 3 scrubs that I already had that I liked, and they were a certain style, but I didn't love them, right? And every scrub I've gotten has been from Amazon. I would love to be able to get fig scrubs, but they are expensive. I also wanted to try getting mandala scrubs, but like for the sake of convenience and quickness, I went through with Amazon. And this particular scrub set I bought in 3 colors. I got the other 2 tomorrow. I got like a Caribbean blue, this is the burgundy one, and I got one other one. I think that's like a purple, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. Purple might be the one I couldn't get. There was like one other color that I got, and the fit of them is so nice. The quality of them is so nice. Like, they're not like waterproof or anything, but they're just like, they're really nice, and the packaging was really cute. I will insert it here if like, I can't remember right off the top of my head what it was now, but I remember when I opened the package I was like, these are gonna be cute. And the first, like, the other set of scrubs I had were joggers, which I love joggers, but I don't know, there's just, the style wasn't quite what I wanted. So this one is like open leg, and I have my Crocs on. I'm not wearing my Crocs in there, but my Crocs are like my transfer shoes. Like, I have my hospital shoes, which I only have 1 pair of like hospital shoes, so before I go in I'm gonna change into those. They're like my clinical shoes, I guess you could say, and my Crocs are like my driving shoes. So yeah, I've been talking for like 10 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off and drink my coffee while I wait to go inside. So I'll see you guys soon. Everyone, welcome to day 3 of clinicals. Yeah, I'm here. I'm tired. I got like 3 hours of sleep yesterday and about 3.5 today. And I did have to call out of my main shifts because there's no way I'm gonna be able to do another like 20 hours of being up. So we're on day 3. You know, I went with blue today. I didn't wear like my underscrub today because it was so warm in the nursing home. It's so warm out here that I can't, like, I don't think I could do another day of being warm. And I ordered a blue coconut drink to match, but then they put it in a regular compostable cup. And off by my alarm, but I'm like, I wanted it to match, but I don't have a clear container to put it in. So I have a blue drink, but no one else will know. Well, probably until I start drinking it and the blue dye is like everywhere. But yeah, so day 3 of clinicals. It's pretty much probably going to be more of the same as yesterday. We haven't gotten paired with the same CNA so far, mostly because it's just whoever's available, that's who we get paired with. I have been partnered with the same other CNA student, so that's been interesting because we both get to like tag team each of the skills that we're doing. Or like go back and forth. So yesterday I got to do feeding. I had a patient that I was kind of one-to-one feeding with each mealtime, and then a lot of cleaning. I saw somewhere that, or when I was like watching like CNA vlogs, there was one girl who was like, being a CNA is dealing with a lot of shit. And it's quite literally very true. Like a day has not gone by so far in the past 3 days where we haven't had to clean patients with like major blowouts. And like TMI, but it is literally what it is. And yesterday was my first time, not my first time in general, but my first time on my particular unit experiencing more of like the dementia symptoms, I would say dementia symptoms is probably the nicest way to put it. In that, you know, we tend to call it sundowning for like people who are affected like later on in the day, but in reality it can happen at any time in the day. And so in a room of 2 patients, there was one patient we were like getting ready for the day who was very vocal and very particular about everything she wanted, which on one hand I'm like, yes, like, you know, don't be afraid to tell us exactly what you need, but at the same time it was just like every step was being like articulated, like do it this way, and I was like, all right, I can't be mad. But it did take a long time. And then her roommate was definitely like early in the morning. You know, she was still sleepy, she was still tired, but she was definitely very much not quite aware of everything that was happening. And she would make like comments and like start screaming and stuff. And after a while, because of course like we're new, we're like trying to understand if she's talking to us, because at one point she said like, you guys are really mean or something. So it was very interesting because it sounded like she was aware of what was happening, but at the same time wasn't. Like, we weren't doing anything to her, we weren't saying anything to her, but you know, at one point she was talking to us, she was looking at us and talking, but it was like very clear that she wasn't necessarily talking to us. So that was very interesting to see. Yesterday was the first time that we really dealt with patients earlier in the morning. I think I mentioned this yesterday, but like day 1 we were pretty much just like getting to know the nursing home itself and getting to understand like where things were and stuff, and we really didn't get more actively like participating until around lunchtime. And then yesterday we were pretty much there from breakfast time, so we got to see more of like the early morning preparation and preparing people for the day, and kind of seeing, you know, who's more likely to be up earlier and wants to be up earlier, who gets their breakfast brought to them in bed, who gets fed. So that was very interesting. It was definitely very busy. You know, the patient ratios here are kind of insane. Our person yesterday had 10 patients. The unit we're on, I think, has 14, and then the opposite side has more, and so, or has less. So the way it was split was like 10 patients on the 14 side were ours, and then 4 on our side, and then the rest on the other side were another woman's. And it was very easy to see like how being overstimulated and overwhelmed can affect your quality of care and the way that your patients perceive you, because the other CNA, you know, obviously everyone is rushed, but the other CNA was like very like kind of snappy, and it's not to her detriment. I'm sure she was very overstimulated. Our CNA was explaining that the day prior on Sunday was like really rough for all of them in terms of like the nurse that they had and everything, and it was just really bad. So I can definitely understand being overstimulated. As much as I'm like actively participating in a lot of ways, I'm also observing different things. I personally don't plan on working in a nursing home, but it's obviously very valuable that there are people who are working in a nursing home. So of course we appreciate the people who are putting in the effort every single day, because it's not easy. It's really not easy. Like, there are amazing patients who are oriented and alert and are like very aware of what's happening, and they're very kind. And then rather simply, there are other patients who are just not as kind, or unfortunately not as aware, and so as a result are not as kind. I haven't had anyone who's been explicitly mean or anything like that. That's not at all what I'm saying. Not that that doesn't exist, but you know, it's definitely easier to be friendly. I don't want to say friendly because I'm friendly to all the patients that I interact with, but it's easier to, I guess, be more active in communicating with those who are more alert and aware. I guess if that makes sense. But yeah, so the day is about to start. It's 5:15 right now. Clinical start at 6 a.m. I followed the same trend so far for each of the 3 days that I've been coming to clinicals. I live literally right down the street from it, but I've kind of created a routine for myself where I wake up at 4 a.m. Friday was different. I woke up earlier because I wanted to finish my hair. But I wake up at 4 a.m. because for my own psychology, if I wake up any later than that, I'm more likely to sleep in, or I'm more likely to oversleep. And I don't know if that makes any sense. Because I've been saying, oh, I got 3 hours of sleep, and sure, I probably could have gotten 1 more hour if I slept until 5, but at the same time, I don't know, it's just like a different vibe. It's a different energy. When I give myself plenty of time to wake up and to do more stuff, like, in reality, it's really only taken me about 45 minutes each day to get ready. And so if I left at 5, I would be on time, but I don't want to be on time. I want to be early. The parking here is very sparse. So for one thing, I want to get here and be parked and like, okay. But also, again, it's just a different vibe. Like if I wake up at 4 a.m., I have more time to kind of dilly-dally and be slow and be distracted and all that stuff. And I have had that the past 2 mornings where it takes me a while to really wake up and I'm so tired, and like I have to overcome a mental vibe of like, I would really like to stay in my bed right now. This morning was definitely a lot more difficult where my alarms all went off. I had like 3 alarms set, 3 different devices of alarms set. And then after I turned them off, I kind of lay there for a moment. And it's that like critical point after you wake up where you can either go back to sleep or get up. And so I had to like mentally tell myself, Nadine, you have to get up right now or you're gonna not wake up. As in like wake up on time for clinicals. So I had to like overcome that mental barrier for myself first, get up. And then even if I'm in like a tired stupor, not really doing anything, at least I'm up and I'm oriented. And then I called out from work today, because again, I'm not gonna be able to do another 8-hour shift after this. Like I was tired at noon yesterday and still proceeded to work for another 2, like half a shift and another shift, and it was not pretty. Like I don't want to be in a space where I'm trying to drive home from work and I'm falling asleep. Like I was worried about that yesterday. Thank God I like got through it. I got home, but I'm not trying to risk it again today. So yeah, I woke up at 4, got ready by like 4:45, and again, it's also been part of my schedule to like head to Starbucks. Do I need to get Starbucks? Not necessarily, but I also don't have any groceries at home, so I'm not in a space where I can like prepare food, and honestly that would probably take a little bit longer, but it takes like 5 minutes to stop there. So I've kind of created a route where I'll head to Starbucks first, get my breakfast, get like a snack for later, and get a drink, and then by the time I get here I can kind of just relax and rest a little bit. Not like physically go to sleep, but rest and just not be in that anxiety of like, okay, I need to get here on time. Because there is a level of anxiety. Like this particular clinical, this particular CNA school, they do charge you if you miss a clinical, and they charge you $300. And for many of us, if not all of us that are part of this school, like we can't afford that. So like after paying almost $1,500 of tuition, none of us are going to want to pay a $300 rescheduling fee for clinicals, and certainly not a $50 fee for like all the other classes we had before. So yeah. That was a long drawn out explanation, but basically I want to get here early. I want to be here like securely and not have to worry about being late. That doesn't even have to cross my mind. Like being late is something I hate, but also being in a position where I don't have parking or something would be terrible. So I'm here, I'm early, I'm like, you know, I get to wait for everyone else and kind of see everyone else come in. And yeah, I am curious how it's gonna go. Like I think I said this in the last time, but our instructor has been very adamant of putting us in the same exact place every single day. we're all like, there's 9 of us, and we've all been put on like long-term facility, which is a majority of the facility, but the long-term like care units. And so, well, I can't say we all have been, I think most of us have been placed on long-term related care. And so like there's upstairs and a downstairs, and I've been downstairs on one wing, and then everyone else has like their own wing and stuff. And so basically making sure that the patients that we're with know who we are and kind of get used to us by the time we leave, and then we're gone. So it has been nice to have that consistency of seeing the same exact patients each day, and kind of like getting to know their routines, getting to know their personalities. There was one particular patient or client who like recognized me and like remembered my name, which is really nice, because I don't know, like a lot of people don't remember my name. I guess Nadine is more of like a rare name nowadays. Like the people who tend to be like, oh yeah, like I had a friend who had this name growing up, it's all the older people. So it's really nice. It feels really special when it's like, okay, they know my name and they know who I am, and I know who they are, and I can kind of like, you know, be helpful. I got to like make people's beds yesterday, and you know, besides cleaning and everything, like just being there for the patient is really nice. And I don't want to say unfortunately, but it's very clear that we as a students are at the luxury of being able to explore, and being able to be as slow as we need to be, except when we're of course helping to get a patient ready or things like that. But we have the luxury of being able to stop and help a patient or talk to a patient. We're actually encouraged to do that. We're also encouraged to like go out and view activities and stuff, which I'm hoping I can do today or tomorrow or Thursday, because that is on our list of things that we should be getting done. But yeah, we're encouraged to be a little more participatory in like various aspects of the nursing home, whereas of course the employee, the CNA who's there, is really just actively trying to get through their tasks for the morning. And you know, I don't know, somehow like 6 a.m. to 2:30, our shift technically ends at 1:30. We go downstairs and we work on like vital signs and stuff on each other. So for the CNAs who are starting at 6, I feel like we didn't really start like trying to like get people ready until maybe 6:20, 6:30, because we were waiting for a nurse, and there's just like a long lead time. And then of course each patient takes a different amount of time, and it definitely did take a lot of time. And then by 9 a.m. breakfast was being served, so we had like a certain amount of time to get a certain number of patients ready. It wasn't necessarily every single patient, but it was like, okay, make sure you get all your vital signs, make sure you have let the nurse know of anything that's like changed, make sure you're, you know, getting patients clean who may have been incontinent throughout the night. It's definitely a lot. Like there have been 3 of us the past 2 days, and 3 of us, again, I mean myself, the other student that I have been partnered with kind of in my unit, and then a CNA. And so there have been 3 of us to do the work that typically the one CNA has to do. And it's like really jarring to realize, like, if we weren't here, I'm not saying the person would struggle necessarily, but it's just like, it's a lot of work. It's definitely a lot of work. And I have the benefit of being able to view the perspective of like a hospital. I'm not, again, actively engaged with patients there, but I am able to view how the CNAs work. I have been able to ask certain questions like, hey, what are your ratios like on this floor, and et cetera, et cetera. And so I have that privilege of kind of being able to compare directly like what it looks like. And it's definitely very different. Like I said, being in a nursing home, working in a nursing home is definitely very difficult. It's very difficult because you have so many different kinds of patients. And again, depending on the time of day, they could be a very different person, and they might need a lot more assistance. Whereas in a hospital, like, yeah, you might have a geriatric unit, you might have a behavioral unit, but like, a majority of the units are very diverse, and so you may not have to provide the level of care for every single patient, which again, I said that for here, but at the end of the day, they all need help, right? And so, yeah, I think that's a major thing. Like in, for example, the med-surg unit that I work at the hospital, like you can have patients of all ages because it's pretty much like a post-surgery unit. It can be anything from like a GI or an eye surgery or any kind of surgery goes there. and you have people who walk out within like a few hours of their surgery. You have other people who stay for like a few days. You have other people who stay for a few weeks. But then even in that, you have people who are like in their 20s or in their teens or 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, etc. And so regardless of having a surgery, many of them are going to be able to ambulate by themselves, are going to be able to go to the bathroom by themselves, are going to be able to call you and say, this is what I need. Very few comparatively are going to be older people who may experience incontinence. Again, in my particular unit, there are a lot of GI things, so there's like ostomy bags. There's definitely a lot of that, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like, there's definitely going to be less of a chance of having to, for example, clean 5 or 6 patients out of the 8 that you've been assigned, if that makes sense. But yeah, I have been rambling for so long for today. I haven't been able to record at the end of my shift so far, which is why each morning has kind of been like a recap of the day before. I do kind of hope that today is a little bit calmer, but that's not necessarily guaranteed. I do hope that the CNA we are paired with, or I'm paired with, I don't know if I'm going to maintain being with in a 2-person group, but I'm hoping that the CNA that I'm with is helpful. I really appreciate the CNAs who have allowed us to do things rather than just like assisting them, although it is scary in the moment because it's like, oh my god, like we're freaking out. But you know, it is helpful to be able to kind of be actively engaged. There are some of us in our student group who have finished or have gotten mostly everything on their list, and there are others of us who have quite a bit left, and it really depends on your unit. Like, my unit is pretty much all women, and so one of the things we have is shaving, and that we're not going to be shaving, and so I don't know what we're going to be expected to do. I don't think we aren't expected to get every single thing depending on our circumstances of like our unit, but it is a little frustrating that I haven't been able to finish everything yet. So yeah, anyway, I gotta eat breakfast. I have like half an hour left, so I will see you guys in the next portion of the video.